All right, here we are, guys. We're doing it again. Another Wednesday, another podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Lots to talk about, as always. It took me more time than usual to get set up here. I feel like with older age, I've become more OCD, which is very frustrating. The amount of times that I double check to make sure that the video was on um, was a lot of times, too many times. I've noticed that also with when I leave my apartment. I double check, not just when I leave, but before I go to bed. I double check. It's not even double checking. I don't know why I'm saying double check. It's like quadruple plus checking to make sure the oven is not on and the door is locked. And I feel like a crazy person. I don't know why. Something's wrong with my brain. I wish that I could just look at it and go, it is off, go to bed. But I'll look at it and then I'll look back at the front door to make sure that it's locked, and then I'll look back at the oven or the stove, and then I'll look back at the front door. And I go, all right, we're good. And then I'll go to the bathroom and I'll go, is the stove off? And I'll go back and I'll squint because I won't have my glasses on, and I'll go, oh man, can I? And so I'll have to go up beside it and I'll touch it. Okay, the knob, it's not on. Touch the stove. Okay, it's off. And then I'll go over to the door again and I'll see that the lock is turned in the lock position, but I go, yeah, I better test it. And then I jiggle the door and go, okay, it's locked. And then and it's just like, what is wrong with me? I feel very healthy with my diet and my exercise, but it's like, why is my OCD getting out of control? I don't know. Any doctors that listen to this podcast, let me know. Okay? Let me know. But anyways, other than that, things have been good. It's been a good, busy weekend. Did some fun stuff this weekend. Last Friday was Delina's birthday. Went out for her birthday. Did a couple fun things there. Went out with a group of friends to Postino, which I don't know if that's a big chain. I know there's a couple of them in Denver, but kind of like a wine bar with some light foods like sandwiches and charcuterie boards, stuff like that. But went and hung out there at the beginning of the night. And then we went to what was called a Shrek Rave. Now, you might be wondering, what in the world is a Shrek Rave? Well, let me tell you. It's exactly what it sounds like. It is a DJ music rave where people dress up like Shrek. Yeah, it was an interesting, unique experience. They had it at Cervantes Ballroom, which is like a music venue in downtown Denver. And I did not, most people were dressed up. I was not. I had slacks and a button up, and boy, did I feel out of place. A lot of people, I mean, there were people that had costumes and face paint and hats and just, I mean, I haven't watched Shrek in 20 years. I felt so dumb. There was like gingerbread costumes and I'm like, what is this? And they're like, the gingerbread people from the movie. And I'm like, from what movie? They're like, Shrek. Are you stupid? I'm like, apparently. It's like, yeah, a little stupid, but I didn't know. So there's multiple DJs and they're doing, it was a bunch of bad music, to be honest. Like the first guy, there were 3 different DJs. The first guy was doing like homemade dubstep. And look, I like dubstep just fine. But this was like homemade, like amateur level. The noises that he was using were like, oh, that's like more along the lines of fingers on a chalkboard versus like the tingly feeling from other dubstep where you're like, ooh, that's tickling my brain. The vibrations are making me feel like good or whatever dubstep does. So that guy stunk. Then another guy, he played a big mixture. He was all right. It was a very wide range of music, but he seem to know a little bit more. I don't know. With DJs, I mean, they're mixing. I think the first guy was probably playing his own music. The next guy, I think, was mixing probably more of already made music, and he was like mixing it together. And then the last guy, same deal. I think he was mixing together a bunch of music, but it was very interesting to see. One, because you would think, okay, for a Shrek Rave, did they play All Star by, whatever that band is, Smash Mouth? Did they play other songs from the soundtrack of Shrek? No, 0%. It was just random music, and behind the DJ they had a screen that was playing like Shrek animation, random stuff the whole time. That was like the whole experience. It was very interesting watching it. And this is probably a bad habit, but doing comedy all the time, I feel like I view other artists, other creators, people who are doing, whether it's music or whatever else, poetry, public speaking in general, just people that are in similar walks of life. I feel like I judge them through the perspective of comedy. And it was very interesting to see. I don't know. It was kind of obnoxious, but interesting to like overanalyze these people. You could tell that they didn't seem like super seasoned, a little more amateur than professional in there. And I say that because, as a DJ, you're kind of up there. You're not really doing much. You're pretending to turn knobs and stuff, but it's like, yeah, we know what you're doing. You're just playing random music and just spinning knobs that probably aren't doing anything. But I could tell that they were like not fully comfortable up there because they would pick up the mic every once in a while to like say something to hype the crowd up, but it was like not good. So it's like, oh, you probably haven't like developed the go-to things to say to hype up the crowd. Like the first guy who was playing that dubstep, I'm not even kidding you. He was playing dubstep. He picked up the mic at one point and he goes, "Do you guys like J. Cole?" Which, if you're not familiar, he's a rapper. And the crowd was like, "Woo!" And then I'm not kidding you. He put the mic down and then proceeded to not play any J. Cole. He just continued to play random dubstep. And I was like, what? Like, he didn't even say it sarcastically. It was like, what are you talking? This is so random. And then, like, the next couple guys went up there, and it's funny to see, like, they're up there, and they're really not doing much. Like, you're playing pre-recorded music. So spinning the knobs, I don't know. I mean, I'm not fully in that world, but as far as I understand, it's like you might be, like, upping some levels here and there, but for the most part, you're just up there and, like, kind of trying to hype the crowd up by your energy as well. So they're doing like the hand movements, like the hand pumping up to the sky, or just the fist pumps, and trying to hype people up that way. And it was funny because like that's their like comedy's version of looking comfortable on stage. It happens in a lot of ways, but it's just your body language. Some people will fiddle with the mic stand and play with that. Everybody has their mannerisms, so it's funny to see like people where they're like, oh, this is their go-to mannerism to keep them going, just to the beat. When it drops, they like keep it going, and as soon as the beat drops, they like throw their arm down, and they're like, yeah, and then they do this, I don't know. If you're not watching the video, you have no idea what I'm doing, but you get it. They're fist pumping in a bunch of different ways, which was interesting to see. And I don't know why I was thinking about this, but as it relates to comedy, it made me laugh thinking, if comedy was like playing music live, like being a DJ live, it would basically just be you on stage playing your album. So it's like, all right, I pre-recorded my jokes, and the jokes start playing, and then you just stand up there and you kind of just like do the hand movements and act outs. And then maybe you like insert some crowd work, aka when the DJs picked up the mic occasionally and would be like, "What's up, Denver? What's up, Shrek Rave? How we doing tonight?" Nobody would go watch comedy if that's what it was. It's like, "Hey, come see me live and I'll play the pre-recorded jokes and then I'll just like pump you up occasionally and keep you paying attention." Anyways, that was some behind the scenes stuff that probably nobody cared to hear about. But that's what I was doing while I was watching this stuff. Bunch of people, dressed up randomly. It was a good time. It was, I enjoyed it. There's a group of maybe like 8 people who went. So it was fun. Just, I'm not much for dancing, but I did a couple basic. It wasn't dancing. It was just you're just kind of head bobbing. You're kind of I was just doing my best not to look weird. That's pretty much my goal anytime I go to a public thing is like, I don't want to look weird. I don't want to be the person that stands out by being weird. And, in those cases, sometimes if you're the only one dancing, you're standing out looking weird. But if you're at a place where everybody's dancing, you got to dance too, or you look weird. If you're just standing there, not dressed up like Shrek and standing in the corner, that's a recipe for people being like, "What's this guy doing? We don't like this guy standing around here." But that was whatever night that was, Friday night, Saturday. Man, another busy weekend. These weekends are flying by, which is, it's good. They're filled with exciting, fun stuff, but also it's like, Lord have mercy, I want to have some more free time. But Saturday I did, went to the movies with Dailey. We went and saw Alien Romulus, I think it's called, which in the last podcast I talked about watching Alien Covenant, I think it was. Alien Romulus is the newest Alien movie that is out. Went and saw that at AMC in the Dolby, is that what it's called? Dolby Cinema, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, and I feel like I've probably talked about this before, but AMC has there's too many options, okay? They've got the regular movie, whatever that's called, just the digital screen or whatever. Then they have like the 3D versions. They have Dolby Cinema. I feel like they have a couple others too. Sometimes they'll have like the movie with subtitles in a different language, but that's a little bit different from the point I'm about to make, I guess. But it's just too many options. And not only that, we go to the Dolby Cinema, which, by the way, you're paying extra money for this Dolby thing, which in their previews, they explain like what it is. And I guess to put it simply, it's just a higher quality audio and video. But you watch the movie and you go, I don't hear or see the difference at all. You're like, this is a regular movie that you're just charging me more for. I don't get it. Anyways, I digress. Saw the movie there. It was a pretty good movie. I think I rated it a 6.2 out of 10. I gave it just over a 6. But it wasn't incredible. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. It was a little confusing because we watched Alien Covenant like a week ago, and that came out in 2017, so it's been 7 years since. But I thought it was going to be like a direct sequel to that movie, and it was not. It was a different storyline, and I think it's kind of like the Star Wars saga, where like they started. There's like 7 or 8 Alien movies, and I think they're just kind of like they're not in order at all. Like the first couple were like the middle, and then they're like going forward and backwards in time, and like. You kind of, if you've watched the previous movies, you kind of understand like the general typical plot, aka an alien shows up at some point. But not a direct sequel. But it was pretty good. Delaney and I were kind of going back through the older Aliens and catching up on some of the some of the older plot lines and storylines, whatever they're called. So that'll be fun. That'll be something to do over the next couple of weeks. But decent movie. Got some popcorn. Ate it real quick. I've said it before. That popcorn goes quick. That's like, I can't stop. I can't just like casually eat. If it's in front of me, it's like I just am doing handfuls until it's gone, which is typically about 10 minutes into the movie. But popcorn's good, I guess. The kernels are a problem. And, if any inventors are listening to this podcast, get on that. How do you prevent popcorn kernels from going into your gums? Maybe the answer is you wear a retainer and you awkwardly chew your food, which is uncomfortable, but you don't get stuff stuck in your teeth. Anyways, that was a good movie. It was a fun time. I made a little list over here of things that I've been doing, trying to keep track of this pod. Trying to keep it a little more, I don't know, talk about topics that are interesting. Is anything interesting? Who knows? But on a different topic, I've been reading a little bit more recently. I think I've talked about it in previous episodes, but I finished reading Dune 3 a couple weeks ago, and then I hopped back into a book that I had read about half of and ended up finishing it. It was The Wayward Bus by John Steinbeck, and I've actually started adding it to the beginning of a joke I have about reading, because I started reading this book of like in July or August of last year. So I read like 100 pages like a year ago, and then I finished the book here recently. So it took me over a year to read a 250-page book. And yeah, I've been including that in a joke. Basically just how it's like, when you take that long to read a book, you've just forgotten everything that's going on. But you're like, all right, well, I finished it. Check it off the list. Not really sure what's going on, but I finished it. I read all the words in the book. That's all that matters. So finished that, and now I'm on to some new books. I also did the same thing with On Writing by Stephen King. I read, half of it or 2/3 of it like a year ago, and now I'm trying to finish that. I'm very close to finishing that, but that's also not like a novel. That's like a Stephen King telling you his way of writing and like how you should approach writing, whatever you would call that, but like an instructional book almost, whatever genre that falls within. But also bought some new books. I bought Station 11 and The Stand, which are both like post-apocalyptic books. Want to read some of those. Those seem to be interesting. Those are topics that I enjoy, that I think are cool, kind of similar to the Alien movies. So excited to start on those. I will say Station 11 seems to be about 300 or 400 pages. That was highly rated. I don't know anything about it. It was just showed up as like a highly rated post-apocalyptic option out there. But The Stand by Stephen King, which is like a deadly virus outbreak book, I guess, one of his earlier books, I think, that was pretty successful, maybe in the 80s or something. Did not know this until it arrived. It's like 1,100 pages. So excited to read that, but also that might take a minute. That might take 4 years to read if I go at the pace that I went with The Wayward Bus. Which, by the way, if you guys are familiar with John Steinbeck, if anybody, I don't know how many, I don't think The Wayward Bus was very popular. I've read quite a bit of John Steinbeck, and he has a couple books that are very good, and then there's a lot that really fall off. He's obviously like an American, very, very successful and well-known American writer. And East of Eden is one of my favorites. Like, I'll probably go back and reread that book at some point soon. It genuinely is. I really like that book. I read Grapes of Wrath. That was okay. I didn't like it as much. But then I read like Winter of Our Discontent, and that was like a very convoluted, difficult read that I didn't like that much. I read, I think, Tortilla Flat, which is one of his really early ones, and that was like weird. That was like 150 pages. It was kind of like in between a novel and a short story. But that was like, okay, that's not great. And Wayward Bus, it was just a whatever book. Like it was a story about like this gas station / bus stop in California where a bunch of people come to hop on the bus, and that bus is taken to another bus stop and runs into trouble with a bridge that's maybe going to collapse because of rising waters in the river, and just like all the characters that are on it's just one of those things where you're like, it's just there's not enough of like a story to it. It's just kind of like capturing that 24 hours and the people that are on the bus, and you finish it and you're like, okay, I didn't really feel much from that. But yeah, looking forward to some of the books that I've got coming up here. Had quite a few shows this week, or quite a few, I don't know, a couple. And they were very fun. I went to a decent amount of open mics again last week. I think I did 3 again on Monday, which is good. I did that the last Monday, which is I was going to not many open mics at all, and so to do 3 in one night certainly helps to like build and memorize and edit and make changes and run the material. And then on Tuesday, I can't remember if I went out or not. Same for Wednesday. But I'm working on a couple new jokes that I've talked about in the past. I'm working on an opera singer joke about living with an opera singer years ago. And I've been editing it quite a bit. It's been morphing, and there's something there. I just need to keep writing. I was writing more on it this morning. I think I just have to commit to it. There's something there. Just keep working through it. I have a bad habit of jumping to new topics and new bits and jokes rather than really focusing on, one joke that I'm trying to build out. So I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to focus on it and not look into the other jokes. And so we'll see how that goes. But that's been going good. I'm also trying to write some more stories and things like that. I've got some stories that I'm trying to work on. Oh wow. Look who it is here. Oh wow, we've got a guest. We've got a guest here who is crashing the party. Little Blady boy. Yeah, but working on some more stories. Haven't worked out a story in a minute. At least a story that's been good. And so I'm trying to look back into the past and go, what are interesting things that would be fun to talk about? And one of those things is when I was in high school on the swim team, there are a couple of different stories here, actually. There's a story where actually both of them involve going to states, the state swim meet. And the first one was when I was in 10th grade, and I got to figure the story out. I'm not going to give you the full ouch. Ouch. This cat is clawing me. He's doing biscuits to me, which is like kind but also hurts. Ouch, Blade. But yeah, the first one was in 10th grade. It was I went to swim states, the swim meet, as an alternate. So I wasn't supposed to swim. Long story short, some swimmers on the team drank alcohol, which is a no-no. They got caught. They got kicked off the team, and then I ultimately had to swim and did not swim fast. Really, and I swam on, I was an alternate for the relay team. So it wasn't for an individual event. It was, I had to fill in for a relay team, and they had, basically with swim meets like that, they do 2 days. The first day is like the prelims where, you all swim and like the top 8 or top 16 make it to the finals the second day. And yeah, we were ranked like third in the state. And then that night, so in between the days is when the guy got caught drinking and got kicked off. So he swam originally, got the team placed third for the next day, and then I came in to swim in the finals, and we got last place. And everybody was very upset at me. And I was like, look, I didn't do the thing that got the guy kicked off the team. So what do you want me to do? But then I don't know if it was the next year or it might have been the year after that. It might have been my senior year. But basically, long story short, I went to states, not as an alternate this time, qualified for a couple events, but almost caught the hotel on fire, or did start a fire in the hotel, and almost was a very bad situation. So trying to work out the stories behind those. Also, my senior year, I don't know if this needs to be added to the story or if I can make it another bit. I've tried it in the past, but it was just like a funny aside to the story. But a week before states, I was playing kickball in PE class in high school, and I kicked the ball like weird off my foot, and I pulled my groin. And so going into that meet, I was like, I had a pulled groin that was very much an issue, and just kind of funny that you go, yeah, how did it happen? Did you, wow, what kind of accident happened for you to pull your groin? It's like, well, I tried to kick a home run on the kickball field and did not. Kind of shanked it. Almost whiffed it off the end of my toe, pulled my groin. Pretty embarrassing. Nothing more embarrassing. What happened was I tried to kick a home run. I tried to kick it as hard as I could, and I just hit it on the very end of my toe, which then stretched my toe backwards, which then caused my groin to pop. And then I just fell on the ground, and I'm trying not to cry. I'm very much in pain. And of course, in high school, the ball still went barely into the infield. And of course, whoever got it, they got it, and they ran up to me and just threw it as hard as they could at my head. So I'm trying not to cry because my groin is pulled, and then they just chuck it at my face. And they're like, gotcha, you're out. You're like, yeah, I know, I'm out. Yeah, okay. My body is broken. I figured I was out. I figured you would know that too, but apparently not. But those are some stories that I'm trying to work on. It was nice to try to implement them during the week on the couple shows that I did. Not those stories, but the opera singing joke and that reading joke. Like I said, I have extended it a little bit. So I did a couple shows. One was Thursday. Did the monthly show that I host for Rotating Tap at Coal Mine Ave Brewing, which is in Littleton. And that was a good time. I've said it before. It's it's like a lower attended show that is more of a bar vibe. It's a brewery, but you're standing kind of with one side is just the bar, and then the other side is some seating. But it's usually 10 to 20 people that are mostly paying attention, and you're not getting massive laughs, but it's good to work out new stuff. It's good to just get reps in scenarios where it's not perfect. It can be a pretty fun show, but it can also be tough. And I think it's important to have some of those tough shows sometimes, because that's what comedy is sometimes. And you have to try to be as good as you can in all situations. So I went there and I did a bunch of new material. And it went okay. I felt good delivering it. There's a lot of work I need to do to get it better, but felt pretty good about it. And then I closed on a story that is usually my closer for my longer sets, but I hadn't done it in a minute, and it actually did really well. The room was not huge, but it did very well, and it's encouraging to to not have many people in the crowd and really keep their attention and have them like all laughing. Because some people will get discouraged. They're like, oh, there's only a couple people listening, and oh, I don't think this isn't fun, and I'm only getting a couple giggles. But it's fun to like really get the entire, like, a small crowd on board. Hold on. Hey, Blake. Hey. Sorry. That's a distraction. The cat that probably I just yelled that into the microphone for some reason. Hold on a second. Blade. All right, we've got a sassy cat here. He's getting into trouble. I don't know why he's doing that. I might have to go over there in just a second. Delina has some flowers from her birthday over there, and he's swatting at them, and they're all in vases that are made out of glass. And he does this. This cat, boy, you little attention seeker. He wants attention, so he does things that he knows will get you, like, he'll get into stuff. He'll start eating plastic. He'll start knocking stuff over. He'll jump up on things that he shouldn't be jumping up on. And it's like he does it because he knows he's not supposed to, but he knows that it will get your attention. So just by me yelling, like, hey, stop that, he has won. And it's like, well, you were over here and I was petting you on the couch, and then you walked away to go do that thing. So I don't know what he wants from me, but anyways, he's pretty cute if he just chills out. Can you chill out? Okay, he's bathing himself. He gives himself like 12 baths a day. It's kind of redundant, It's like, okay. Cat baths, I don't get it. I don't know. Their tongue is so dry and sandpapery, yet that's how they clean them. I don't get it. I don't know. I'm not a cat expert. Anyways, yeah, did that show hosted for Rotating Tap on Thursday. It was good to work out some new material there. Friday, like I said, was the first Friday I hadn't had a show in a very long time. But that was Delina's birthday, so had taken that off, and that was a fun night. Like I said, we went out to dinner and then the Shrek Rave, which was an interesting experience. But then on Saturday, I did a Don't Tell show, which before I talk about that, before the Don't Tell show, I did it, guys. I broke down and I bought a new set of irons, okay? Some of you know me. I'm very frugal. Some of you would say annoyingly frugal. But I treated myself, and I bought a set of Tacomo, or however you pronounce it, irons. I got the combo set, the muscle back and cavity back combo set, and was very excited. Those came in, so I got those in the afternoon, and I went out to the driving range and tried them out, and I'm very excited to test them out more and play. I'm going to be playing on Saturday, I think. So excited to test those out. But I won't bore you guys too much with the golf stuff, but that is very exciting. And if you guys like talking golf, hit me up later. We can talk about the deets. But Saturday night, went out to Don't Tell show. Did a Don't Tell show at a local studio. And it's a studio that does a bunch of comedy stuff and is very involved with the scene. And it's a smaller studio to where like 40 or 50 is like the absolute max that you can fit in there. And I think it was about 35 people, which honestly is kind of like maxed out. Like you can cram more people in there, but like 35-ish is kind of like the max you want if you want people to be seated comfortably. And I think it's like the fourth show I've hosted there. And the first show was hot. And the second and third show it wasn't bad, but it was a little tighter, especially from the host set, which is very typical. Usually you warm up the show and the show's trajectory keeps getting better and better and better as people, as the crowd warms up. But let me tell you what, Saturday show, hot. It was like hot cakes. It was like pancakes. It was like birthday cakes. Okay. It was all delicious and I loved it. I did my host set. I did some new stuff in there. And man, just from the get go, they were down to laugh. And let me tell you what, big fan of people that do that. When you start a show out and your first joke, your first punchline is like a big laugh, you're like, oh, this is going to be a fun time. So, yeah, I started off with like a tried and true joke. And then I think I did the reading joke next, which, like I said, that's a joke that I've, like a old joke that I added an extra part on in relation to that book that I just finished. Like I said, just joking about the fact that it took me a year to read a book and how that's kind of funny. Where you're like, yeah, I read like a half a page a day. That's pretty embarrassing. And then I did the opera singer joke, which did okay. It didn't do great, but it did okay. But there were also, it was a hot crowd, and there were a couple like punchlines or, quote unquote, where I think are supposed to be punchlines that weren't really getting much. So really good input to know, okay, this is like the most generous crowd ever. If these things aren't working with a generous crowd, then they got to be cut. I got to switch it up. So I've been editing that joke, and that was really good feedback. But then again, I closed on the clogged toilet story that I have. And man, I tell you what, I haven't done that joke in a while. Like I said, I did it on Thursday, but that was like a light crowd. So it's been a minute since I've done it with a hot crowd. And man, it ripped. It ripped so hard, and it feels good. Feels good to have like a crowd laughing really hard at all the points. The joke has multiple like punchlines and then like 2 tags after, so you get like kind of that rolling laughter. And it's a story too. It's like 4 minutes, so like it all builds to the end, to the last thing, and to get like a big payoff. It was very fun. And then all the comics did really well. The headliner was out of New York. I hadn't heard of him before, but he has a lot of credits. He's been on like the Tonight Show. I can't remember. He's got a lot of credits. And he's got a lot of followers on Instagram, and he was very down to earth. He was in town for like vacation for like a week, and he was just doing this show. He was doing like one show. He's like, yeah, he was talking about it in a very healthy way, about the way he approaches comedy and the balance he has with life and comedy. Some people, myself included, you feel pressure to like get as many shows in as possible, and sometimes you like don't live life, and in order to come up with material and feel creative, sometimes you need to like have balance and breaks with comedy. So it was interesting to hear his perspective on it. I'm pretty sure he's like a regular at the Comedy Cellar in New York, and yeah, a lot of credits. But it was funny because I asked him, as I ask most people before I bring them up as the host, I say, how do you want me to bring you up? And usually people with credits will say, yeah, bring me up to this, say that I've been on this show, or that I have this special out, or this album, or whatever the case is. And he was like, oh, don't, just nothing. Just tell him my name. And yeah, very, very funny guy. Very down to earth. And this cat is about to go for the flowers again. I'm about to have to, oh boy, he's eyeing them. Oh my goodness. Is he going to do it? Hold on. Hey, come here. Wow, this is the first episode where he's really doing his best to get his 15 seconds of fame, huh? He's really going for it. Man, he's on the prowl, and he is really wanting to swat at some flowers. This is very obnoxious behavior, okay? Cats do not respond. I thought for the longest time cats would be like dogs, and you'd be like, hey, stop that. And they're like, oh, I'm learning. That like builds their interest in misbehaving. When you give them feedback like, hey, stop that thing, they're like, ooh, I got their attention now. And it just makes you want to, in the nicest way, put them in a headlock and give them a big old disciplinary noogie. But yeah, that was Saturday night. Very fun. Don't tell. One of the better shows I've done in a while. And most Don't Tell shows are very good. So that's just to say that this show was very good. Very hot room. And then Sunday was it's been kind of the typical routine here over the last couple weeks at least, but went to Orange Theory in the morning, got a good workout in, had our last regular season volleyball game, which, shocker, the team didn't show up again. We won by forfeit. Our record for it's only a 6-game season. We might make the playoffs. We'll have to see. But we went 4 wins, 2 losses, and 3 of the wins were by forfeit. The 4th win, the only win that wasn't by forfeit, was by a team that didn't have all of their players. So we have not won a game against a full team. And we might make the playoffs, and we might get beat very badly. But we will see. But that was fun. I was very tired. Doing a workout and then going and playing volleyball right after, it's like, whew, man, I'm tired. I got those new golf clubs the other day. Like I said, I went out and hit 80 golf balls on the range, and I was tired. I was like, man, I got to, I don't know, take some testosterone or something. I don't know. But Sunday morning was busy, and then Sunday evening I had a show. I did a comedy show at a church. Good friend of the pod, Jake Hovis. He used to be in Denver. He moved to Louisville, and very funny guy. I actually went out and saw him for the first time in a while. Went out with Ed Bell, did a tour in May, and he let us stay at his house there in Louisville, which was very kind of him. And we did. He helped us get set up with the show in Louisville, which was also very fun. But he is from Denver, and his family's out here. And he comes out. He did this last year as well, and I opened for him at the church. But he came out and did a little gig at his church, and it was very fun. I remember last year I did, I think, 15 minutes up top, and this year did like 20 minutes up top. And I remember last year being a little more nervous for it. Because it's kind of like a cold open. You're going out there in cold opening. And over the last year, I've hosted probably like 100 times. Like so many. I'm just getting so used to hosting. It's like second nature. It's not a big deal now. So I felt a lot more comfortable this year. But also, there's a little nerves there with because I do it mostly clean. So doing clean is not that big of a deal. But doing church clean is even more clean. And it's more of like a thing in your head where I know most of my jokes are clean, but you're like saying them, and something in the back of your head is like, you're not about to say something that's like bad, are you? Or that like wouldn't be received well. And again, my jokes aren't super dirty, but just like random things where maybe in some of my jokes I'll say something's happening and I'll be like, no, like I swear to God this thing happened. And in a church, I grew up in the church, like that. You don't want to say God, you don't want to take the Lord's name in vain. That's something that people a lot of times take very seriously and they don't like hearing. So just like doing your jokes and then kind of in the back of your head, you're like, I'm not about to say something that's going to upset people, am I? And so that can kind of like take you out of the moment a little bit. But yeah, did about 20 minutes up top, and the crowd was very fun. They were into it. I closed on a story that's the story about clogging a toilet, which is a clean joke, but also it's one of those things where you're like, are they going to be unhappy that I'm talking about a story that involves poop? Now, I don't go into the details about it. I say that I clogged a toilet, and then I tell the story without getting graphic. But, it's like one of those things where you're like, I don't want to offend anybody ever. But especially at a church where you're like, I don't want to come into your place of worship and say some naughty stuff that's going to make you mad. Fortunately, they were on board. They laughed. They had a good time. It was no big deal. Jake headlined. I did some time up top, and then he headlined and did very, very well, as he did last year. He had I told him afterwards, because he was asking me, he was like, how much new time do you have over the last year? And he was saying, yeah, I only have like 20 minutes new from last year when I did this, so I hope they don't, hear too many repeat stuff, which, by the way, I don't think many people memorized or remembered this stuff from the year before, so I don't think it was that big of a deal. But he did, probably 20 plus minutes of new material, and it was fun to see. It was fun to see his new jokes. I hadn't heard those before. He had a lot of good jokes, a lot of good material that went very well. So it's always fun to see buddies working through new stuff or just doing new stuff in general. See that they've been putting in the time. I very much respect and try myself to constantly write new material, work out new material. And that's something that just interests me. The creative process is very much something that drives me and keeps me doing that. But also being a comedian, that's a big part of it. You got to keep building and more material. And at a certain point, you put that material out via video, audio, however you do it, and then you have to build new material. So I look up to a lot of people and respect a lot of people and surround myself with a lot of people that have that same mindset. And I think that helps me continue to strive to be a better comic and write more new stuff. So, that was a fun gig to end the weekend. Did that, and then, just here we are now on Monday, starting the week and doing the pod. But I'm going to end it there. That's pretty much, that's been 45 plus minutes. I feel like this cat is about to lose its mind, so I'm going to go pet him or whatever he needs done to chill out. But thanks so much for listening. That's the end of the episode. Hope it was enjoyable if you made it to the end. Thanks so much. If not, then you're not hearing this. But I'll end it there. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you guys again next week.